Hey there, deep divers. Welcome back for another deep dive into all things, bizarre and fascinating. If you're enjoying these explorations with us, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes.
Sounds good.
Today we're going to tackle a topic that always gets me thinking, what is real? How do we know? The nature of reality itself.
Ah, yes. The big questions. Always a good place to start.
Our guide on this journey is philosopher Eric Schwitzgebel, specifically his book, The Weirdness of the World.
Great choice. Schwitzgebel really gets you thinking outside the box.
He really does. And that's kind of our mission today, right? To grapple with his central argument, this thing he calls the universal weirdness principle.
Exactly. And to see where it leads us. What are the implications for how we understand ourselves and the universe?
So walk us through this principle. What does it mean that the world is fundamentally weird?
Well, Schwitzgebel argues that every attempt to truly understand the mind and the cosmos leads to conclusions that just don't sit right with our common sense.
So it's not that the universe is deliberately trying to be weird.
No, not necessarily. It's more like our human brains just aren't equipped to fully grasp the true nature of reality.
Okay, so our brains are kind of limited.
That's one way to put it. And this applies to any framework we use to try to understand reality, whether it's materialism, dualism, idealism, you name it.
So no easy answers.
Not according to Schwitzgebel. He's not trying to prove any one theory, right? He's showing us just how deep the mystery really goes.
Okay, so get ready for some serious mind-bending, folks. Now, let's start with something familiar. Materialism. Most of us have heard of that, right? The idea that everything is ultimately physical.
Yep, that's the basic idea.
But Schwitzgebel argues that even this seemingly simple idea leads to some pretty weird conclusions.
It does, especially when you start applying it to the question of consciousness.
Right, because if everything is just matter and energy, then how do you explain things like thoughts, feelings, subjective experience?
Exactly. Schwitzgebel uses a bunch of thought experiments to highlight these challenges, and they get really interesting.
Oh, I love a good thought experiment. Hit us with one. How does he use these thought experiments to show the potential weirdness of materialism?
One that really gets me thinking is the idea of mad pain and Martian pain.
Okay, those sound kind of painful. Break those down for us.
So imagine a person who experiences excruciating pain whenever they do something as simple as exercising gently.
Like going for a walk.
Yeah, something like that. We could call this mad pain because it's totally out of proportion to the actual stimulus.
Okay, so the pain response is like misfiring.
Exactly. Now imagine a Martian with a completely different physiology than us. Maybe their version of pain is triggered by certain wavelengths of light that we can't even perceive.
Makes sense. Different beings, different experiences.
Right. We could call that Martian pain.
So you're setting up a scenario where the same subjective experience pain could be caused by totally different physical events in different beings.
Exactly. And that raises a big question for materialism. If consciousness is just physical, how can the same physical state result in such wildly different experiences?
Yeah, that's a tough one to explain. It's like, if consciousness is just neurons firing, shouldn't the same pattern of activity always lead to the same experience, regardless of who's experiencing it?
Right. And this gap between physical states and subjective experiences suggests that maybe there's more to consciousness than materialism can fully account for.
So materialism might be incomplete, like missing a piece of the puzzle.
Possibly. And it gets even weirder when you start thinking about the possibility of group consciousness.
Group consciousness. Okay, now we're venturing into some uncharted territory. Lay it on us.
Well, Schwitzgebel uses the example of the United States as a potential candidate for group consciousness.
Wait, hold up. You're saying that the United States, like the country itself, might be conscious?
That's what he's suggesting. And before you dismiss it outright, think about this. If consciousness can arise from a complex network, even if those parts are physically spread out, the U.S. actually exhibits some of the hallmarks of consciousness as defined by materialists.
Okay, I'm trying to stay open-minded here. So walk me through it. How does he justify that claim about the U.S. being conscious?
Well, consider this. The U.S. has a huge network of communication through media and technology. It exhibits goal-directed behavior on a national level through things like laws and policies. It even responds to its environment and adapts to change.
I mean, I guess those things sort of resemble some of the features of consciousness, but it's still a hard pill to swallow.
Right. It definitely clashes with our common sense. But again, that's Schwitzgebel's point. He's not saying the U.S. is definitely conscious, but he's forcing us to confront the weird implications of taking materialism seriously.
It's like a thought experiment designed to stretch our understanding of what consciousness could be. And it's making me wonder if maybe our human-centric view of consciousness is too limited.
Exactly. And these are just a couple of examples. There's a lot more weirdness where that came from. Well, Schwitzgebel also points out that materialism struggles to explain how mental states can cause physical actions. If everything is physical, how can a thought or feeling cause something to happen in the brain?
Yeah, how does that work? If my desire for a cup of coffee is just neurons firing, how does that desire actually make my arm reach out and grab the mug?
It's a problem that has puzzled philosophers for ages, and the solutions proposed by materialists often end up creating their own set of weird implications.
Okay, so we've encountered some serious weirdness already, and we're still just scratching the surface of materialism. Where do we go from here? What other mind-bending concepts does Schwitzgebel throw our way?
Well, one of the most unsettling but also fascinating concepts he explores is the idea of radical skepticism.
Radical skepticism. Oh boy, that sounds intense. What does it mean to be a radical skeptic?
Basically, it's the view that we can't be absolutely certain about anything outside of our own minds.
Hold on, so you're saying I can't even be sure that this chair I'm sitting on actually exists?
Yeah.
That's a bit freaky.
That's exactly the kind of question radical skeptics ask. They point out that our senses can be tricked, our memories can be faulty, and even our reasoning can lead us astray.
Okay, so we can't trust our own senses? But surely there's got to be something we can be certain of. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm having thoughts and feelings right now.
That's actually one of the few things that radical skeptics tend to agree on. We can be certain of our own immediate conscious experiences, but beyond that, it's all up for grabs. We can't be 100% sure that anything outside our own minds actually exists.
So I could be like a brain in a vat hooked up to a computer that's feeding me all these fake experiences? Or maybe this is all a dream.
Those are classic examples, yep. And while they might seem far-fetched, the point of radical skepticism isn't to prove those scenarios true. It's more about acknowledging the limits of our knowledge and the possibility, however small, that our understanding of reality could be totally wrong.
Okay, that's a lot to process. But Schwitzgebel doesn't just leave us hanging with radical skepticism, does he?
He doesn't. He actually proposes something he calls 1% skepticism.
1% skepticism. So like being just a tiny bit skeptical, not going full-blown doubt everything mode.
Exactly. He suggests that we acknowledge the possibility, however small, that our beliefs about the world might be wrong.
Okay, but why? What's the benefit of being even a little bit skeptical?
Well, it can make us more humble and open-minded. If we accept that we don't have all the answers and that our perceptions could be flawed, we're more likely to be receptive to new ideas and different perspectives.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like if you're always 100% certain that you're right, you'll never learn anything new.
Exactly. And Schwitzgebel also argues that 1% skepticism can actually make us appreciate the mystery and wonder of the world more. If we let go of the need to have everything figured out, we can allow ourselves to be amazed by the strangeness and complexity of reality.
So it's about finding a balance between being grounded in our everyday experiences and recognizing that there's always a chance we could be wrong.
Exactly, and that ties back to the universal weirdness principle. The more we try to understand the big questions, the more we encounter ideas that challenge our common sense. And that's not a bad thing.
It sounds like it could be an opportunity to expand our minds and become more curious about the world around us. Okay, I'm into that. So we've talked about materialism, which seems pretty straightforward but quickly gets weird. And we've touched on radical skepticism, which makes you question everything. What else does Schwitzgebel have up his sleeve?
Well, one chapter that I found really fascinating dives into the concept of transcendental idealism.
Transcendental idealism. Okay, that one sounds a little intimidating, but I'm intrigued. What's the basic idea here? What's Schwitzgebel getting at with this concept?
It's a bit complex, but essentially transcendental idealism suggests that the world as we experience it is not a direct reflection of some mind-independent reality. Instead, our minds play an active role in shaping our perceptions.
Wait, so you're saying that the world isn't just out there waiting to be observed, that our minds actually construct our experience of reality?
That's a big part of it. Transcendental idealism, most famously associated with the philosopher Immanuel Kant, argues that our minds impose categories like space and time onto the raw data of our senses. We can't know the world in itself, only the world as it appears to us.
So it's like our minds are filtering reality. Kind of like wearing a pair of glasses that color everything we see.
That's a good analogy. And this means that the world we experience is not a simple mirror image of some external reality, but a kind of co-creation between our minds and the world.
Okay, so if space and time are constructs of our minds, what else might be? What about things like color or sound?
Those are great questions, and those are the kinds of questions that transcendental idealists grapple with. Schwitzgebel explores these ideas in depth using thought experiments and analogies.
So how does all of this connect to the theme of weirdness that runs throughout the book?
Well, Schwitzgebel argues that transcendental idealism, like other frameworks he discusses, leads to conclusions that challenge our basic assumptions about reality. For example, if space isn't an objective feature of the universe, then it's possible that things could exist in ways that totally defy our spatial intuition.
Like what? Give us an example.
Imagine a virtual reality world where objects can pop in and out of existence or change their properties in ways that would be impossible in our physical world. If space is just a mental construct, then maybe reality itself could be more like a virtual reality with strange and unpredictable rules.
Okay, I can see how that would be weird. It's like saying the universe might be more like a video game than a clockwork mechanism.
Exactly. And Schwitzgebel goes even further. He suggests that if our minds are fundamentally shaping our perception of reality, then it's possible that other minds radically different from our own might be shaping their own unique realities.
So like alien beings with completely different senses and ways of thinking might experience the world in ways we can't even fathom.
Precisely. And that opens up the possibility of a truly mind-boggling diversity of realities, all coexisting and interacting in ways we can only speculate about.
Wow, that's a lot to take in. It seems like transcendental idealism is taking us way beyond our usual understanding of the world and into some truly strange territory.
It definitely challenges our assumptions. And Schwitzgebel argues that this is a good thing. By confronting the weirdness of transcendental idealism, we can break free from the limitations of our human-centric perspective and open our minds to new and exciting possibilities.
Okay, so we've covered materialism, radical skepticism, and now transcendental idealism. All of these frameworks seem to lead to some pretty bizarre conclusions. Is there any escape from this universal weirdness that Schwitzgebel keeps talking about?
Well, that's the fascinating thing. Schwitzgebel doesn't offer an escape, nor does he seem to think one is necessary. He argues that weirdness is an inherent feature of our attempts to understand the mind and the cosmos.
So instead of trying to find a way out, he's encouraging us to embrace the weirdness, to lean into the uncertainty and the strangeness of it all.
Exactly. He sees weirdness as a sign that we're pushing the boundaries of our understanding, that we're engaging with the truly big questions that have puzzled philosophers and scientists for centuries.
Okay, I can get on board with that. I mean, it's way more exciting to think of the universe as a wild, unpredictable place than a boring, predictable machine.
Precisely. And Schwitzgebel argues that embracing weirdness can lead to a more open-minded, playful, and even joyful approach to life. If we let go of the need to have everything figured out, we can allow ourselves to be amazed by the strangeness and complexity of reality.
So it's about letting go of the need for certainty and embracing the mystery of the unknown.
Exactly. And that's what makes Schwitzgebel's work so valuable. He's not offering easy answers, but he is encouraging us to ask bigger, bolder questions and to be open to the possibility that the answers might be stranger than we ever imagined.
All right, before we move on to other mind-blowing concepts, let's touch on one more aspect of Schwitzgebel's work. He actually talks about the experience of wonder as being a valuable part of exploring the weirdness of reality.
Ah, yes, the sense of wonder. It's a crucial element of Schwitzgebel's approach, and it's something that often gets lost in the pursuit of knowledge.
Right, it's like we get so caught up in trying to figure things out to find the right answers that we forget to just be amazed by the fact that we get to experience this incredible, mind-blowing universe at all.
Precisely. And Schwitzgebel argues that cultivating a sense of wonder can actually help us to be better philosophers and better thinkers in general. It allows us to approach these big questions with humility and curiosity rather than arrogance and dogma.
So it's not about having all the answers, but about being open to the mystery and the beauty of the unknown.
Exactly. And that openness, that willingness to be surprised and challenged by the world is what ultimately drives us to keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep expanding our understanding of ourselves and the cosmos.
Okay, now that's a profound takeaway. Embracing weirdness, cultivating wonder, and being open to mystery sounds like a pretty good recipe for a fulfilling intellectual life.
I think so. And it's a reminder that philosophy isn't just about abstract theorizing, but about engaging with the world in a way that's both intellectually stimulating and emotionally resonant.
All right, so we've delved deep into the theoretical with materialism, skepticism, and transcendental idealism. But Schwitzgebel doesn't just stay in the realm of abstract ideas, right? He also explores some pretty concrete and potentially disturbing implications of these philosophical frameworks.
That's right. And one of the most thought-provoking discussions revolves around the ethical implications of artificial intelligence, especially in light of his argument that consciousness might exist in forms we don't yet recognize.
AI ethics. Okay, now we're getting into some serious real-world stuff. What specific issues does he raise about the relationship between AI and consciousness?
Well, Schwitzgebel starts by acknowledging that our current understanding of consciousness is limited, and that we might be mistakenly attributing consciousness to AI systems that don't actually possess it, or conversely, failing to recognize consciousness in AI systems that do.
Okay, I see how that's a problem. If we don't even know what consciousness is or how to identify it reliably, how can we make ethical decisions about how to treat AI systems?
Exactly, and this uncertainty creates a real dilemma. On the one hand, if we grant AI systems the same moral status as humans, even if we're not sure they're conscious, we risk creating a situation where AI could potentially exploit or harm humans.
Yeah, that's the classic sci-fi scenario where the robots take over. But on the flip side, if we deny AI systems moral consideration, even if there's a chance they're conscious, we're essentially committing a massive ethical violation.
Precisely. It's a classic case of damned if you do, damned if you don't. And Schwitzgebel doesn't shy away from exploring the potential consequences of both sides of this dilemma.
So how does he suggest we navigate this ethical minefield?
While he doesn't offer any easy answers, which is probably appropriate given the complexity of the issue, but he does urge us to proceed with caution and humility, recognizing the limits of our understanding and the potential for both good and bad outcomes.
Okay, so he's basically saying, let's not rush into creating super intelligent AI before we've even figured out what consciousness is and what the ethical implications are.
Right. He advocates for a design policy of the excluded middle, which essentially means avoiding creating AI systems if we're not sure whether they would deserve moral consideration similar to human beings.
So it's about erring on the side of caution, even if it means slowing down technological progress.
Exactly. And he argues that this caution is justified not just by the potential risks to humanity, but also by the potential harm we could inflict on AI systems themselves if they do turn out to be conscious beings.
It's like if there's even a chance that we're creating sentient beings, we have a moral obligation to treat them with respect and dignity.
Precisely. And Schwitzgebel's exploration of AI ethics is a perfect example of how his philosophical work connects to real-world issues and forces us to think deeply about the choices we're making as a society.
All right, we've covered a ton of ground already, from the weirdness of materialism to radical skepticism, transcendental idealism, and now AI ethics. It's been a whirlwind of mind-bending concepts.
Indeed, and we've only just begun to scratch the surface of the bizarre implications Schwitzgebel lays out.
Before we go any further down this rabbit hole, maybe we should take a moment to recap what we've learned so far.
Good idea. It's easy to get lost in the details when you're dealing with concepts this complex. What are some of the key takeaways you think our listeners should hold on to as we continue this exploration?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's crucial to remember that the universe is a far stranger and more mysterious place than we often give it credit for. Our common sense intuitions are often unreliable guides when it comes to understanding the big questions about consciousness, reality, and our place in the cosmos.
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to question your assumptions and be open to possibilities that might seem weird or even crazy at first.
Exactly. And secondly, I think it's crucial to cultivate a sense of wonder and curiosity. The more we explore the unknown, the more we realize how much there is to learn and how much our understanding can grow.
It's like the universe is an endless source of fascination if we just open our minds to it.
Precisely. And lastly, Schwitzgebel's work reminds us that philosophy isn't just an academic exercise. It's a way of engaging with the world that can enrich our lives, deepen our understanding, and help us to navigate the complexities of our existence.
Well said. So, listener, keep those minds open, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep wondering.
Now, are you ready to dive even deeper into the weirdness? Because Schwitzgebel has a lot more in store for us, including some concepts that are truly mind-blowing, even by our deep dive standards.
Oh, I'm ready. Let's do it. We've talked about the limits of our knowledge and the strangeness of reality, but Schwitzgebel takes it even further. He explores the idea that our actions might have consequences that extend far beyond our immediate experience, even reaching into infinity.
Infinite consequences. Now, that's a concept that definitely pushes the boundaries of my comprehension.
Right.
How can something I do here on Earth have an impact that stretches out forever?
It's a mind-boggling idea, and it draws on some pretty complex concepts from physics and cosmology. Schwitzgebel explores the implications of a potentially infinite universe where even the smallest action can ripple outward, affecting things in ways we can't even begin to grasp.
Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. Give us an example. How could something as simple as raising my hand have infinite consequences?
Imagine you raise your right hand. It seems like a trivial action with limited effects. But Schwitzgebel argues that if the universe is truly infinite, and if certain assumptions about the nature of causality hold true, then the ripples from that action will continue to spread outward forever.
Forever. Like, even after I'm gone, the effects of raising my hand will still be rippling through the universe.
That's the idea. And it gets even weirder. He suggests that if there are infinitely many sibling galaxies out there, regions of the universe similar to our own, but separated by vast distances, then there will be infinitely many versions of you, each existing in those different regions.
Oh, hold on. Infinite versions of me. Like a multiverse of me's running around raising their hands.
Precisely. And here's where it gets really wild. He argues that the ripples from your hand raising will eventually reach those other regions of the universe and interact with the versions of you existing there.
So, like, if I raise my right hand here, it could cause a version of me in a galaxy billions of light years away to do something different.
Potentially. He calls this phenomenon infinite puppetry, the idea that our actions, however small, can have a causal impact on infinitely many versions of ourselves throughout the cosmos.
Okay, infinite puppetry. That definitely wins the award for the most mind-blowing concept so far. It's like we have a cosmic connection to these other versions of ourselves, and our actions have a significance that extends far beyond our immediate experience.
Exactly. And this concept of infinite puppetry ties back to Schwitzgebel's overall theme of embracing the strangeness and wonder of the universe. He's not trying to give us definitive answers, but he is pushing us to think more expansively and to consider possibilities that might seem crazy at first glance.
I'm definitely feeling my mind expanding, but I'm also wondering about the implications. If our actions can have such far-reaching consequences, does that mean we have less control over our choices? And how do we even begin to assess the ethical implications of actions that could affect infinitely many beings?
Those are profound questions, and Schwitzgebel doesn't shy away from the complexity. He acknowledges that these are questions without easy answers, and he encourages us to wrestle with them, to consider the implications from multiple angles, and to be open to the possibility that our intuitions about free will and moral responsibility might need to be revised in light of these cosmic considerations.
So instead of searching for a simple solution, it's more about expanding our ethical framework to encompass the mind-boggling implications of a potentially infinite universe.
Exactly. And I think this is where Schwitzgebel's work is most valuable. He's not just offering abstract theories, he's challenging us to apply these theories to real-world issues, even issues that seem as far out as infinite puppetry.
By exploring the weirdness of these philosophical concepts, he's also pushing us to think more deeply about ourselves and our place in the vastness of the cosmos.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that we're part of something much larger and more interconnected than we often realize.
All right, so we've journeyed through some seriously strange territory, from materialism to radical skepticism and transcendental idealism. We've even dipped our toes into the vast ocean of infinite puppetry. It's been a truly mind-expanding experience.
It has. And as we reach the end of this deep dive, I think it's worth reflecting on what Schwitzgebel's exploration of weirdness ultimately teaches us about ourselves and the universe we inhabit.
I agree. So what are the key takeaways you think our listeners should carry with them as they continue to navigate the complexities of existence?
Well, firstly, I think Schwitzgebel's work serves as a powerful reminder that our common sense understanding of the world is often limited. The universe is full of mysteries and paradoxes, and the more we delve into the fundamental questions about consciousness, reality, and our place in the cosmos, the more we encounter ideas that challenge our preconceived notions.
So the takeaway is to be open to the weirdness, to embrace the possibility that things might not be as straightforward as they seem.
Exactly. Embrace the uncertainty and the unknown. Allow yourself to be surprised and challenged by the world around you.
And in doing so, we might just discover a universe that is far more fascinating and wondrous than we ever imagined.
Precisely. And secondly, I think Schwitzgebel's work highlights the importance of cultivating a sense of wonder. The more we explore the unknown, the more we realize how much there is to learn and how much our understanding can grow.
It's like the universe is an endless source of fascination if we just approach it with a curious and open mind.
Exactly. And finally, I think Schwitzgebel's exploration of weirdness encourages us to approach life with a sense of humility and playfulness. We don't have to have all the answers. In fact, the more we learn, the more we realize how much we don't know. And that's okay.
It's about embracing the mystery, the uncertainty, and the sheer joy of exploring the unknown.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that the journey itself, the quest for understanding, is just as valuable as the destination.
Well said. So, listener, as we conclude this deep dive into the weirdness of the world, remember to keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep wondering.
The universe is full of surprises, and the more we embrace the unknown, the more we discover the beauty and complexity of existence.
Wow, we've really gone deep, haven't we? Exploring all these mind-bending ideas from materialism to radical skepticism, transcendental idealism, and even infinite puppetry. It's like our brains have been stretched to their limits.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. And through it all, Schwitzgebel keeps coming back to this idea of embracing the weirdness, acknowledging the strangeness of the universe and our attempts to understand it.
And it seems like he's not just saying, hey, the universe is weird, get used to it. He's suggesting that there's actually value in embracing that weirdness.
Exactly. He sees weirdness as an invitation to think differently, to challenge our assumptions, and be open to possibilities that might seem counterintuitive or even absurd at first.
So it's about pushing the boundaries of our understanding, venturing beyond the comfortable confines of our common sense view of the world.
Precisely. And Schwitzgebel argues that this willingness to embrace the weirdness can lead to a more profound and fulfilling engagement with reality. It allows us to approach the big questions about consciousness, the nature of the universe, and our place in it all with a sense of humility and wonder.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal of this weirdness thing.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to force-fit the universe into our neat little boxes of understanding, we're allowing ourselves to be surprised and amazed by its vastness and complexity.
That's a great way to put it. And I think that's ultimately what Schwitzgebel is trying to do with this book. He's inviting us to step outside of our comfort zones, to expand our minds, and to embrace the mystery and wonder of existence.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the weirdness of the world, what are some final thoughts or insights you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Well, I think the most important takeaway is that the quest for understanding is an ongoing journey. It's not about finding definitive answers, but about embracing the process of questioning, exploring, and continually revising our understanding of the world.
So it's about being open to new ideas, challenging our assumptions, and never losing that sense of childlike wonder and curiosity.
Exactly. And I think Schwitzgebel's work reminds us that even in the face of profound uncertainty and the inherent weirdness of the universe, there's still a sense of beauty and meaning to be found.
It's about recognizing that we're part of something much larger and more mysterious than ourselves, and that even our small actions and thoughts can have ripples that extend far beyond our immediate experience.
Well said. So, listener, as we conclude this deep dive, remember the universe is a strange and wondrous place. Embrace the weirdness, cultivate a sense of wonder, and never stop exploring the mysteries of existence.
And on that note, we'll bring this episode of The Deep Dive to a close. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the depths of philosophical weirdness.
Until next time, keep those minds open and keep diving deep.